This is why it's so important to understand the why of things, right? Because, there's been a lot of dogma, there's been a lot of tradition. We look at someone like Arnold or someone like whoever you want to look at, Pierre Vandenstein, right? Someone who we know had fantastic abs and he did leg raises. And so you think, oh, well, if he has great abs, he did hanging leg raises, therefore this caused that. No, because number one, he didn't do just hanging leg raises. He certainly did crunches. And the hanging leg raises might not have contributed very much to the abdominal development, but they didn't take away from the benefit of the crunches, right? So you can still look good. The question isn't, can I look good if I do all of these exercises, even the bad ones? The question is, can I look good doing only the good ones? And the answer is absolutely yes. And you'd save a lot of time, save a lot of energy, save a lot of injury risk.
I suppose just because we're still talking about the hanging leg raises, it's a good chance to get into the resistance curve and why it's important to follow it correctly. So maybe the triceps kickback, another good example, but when you're doing the hanging leg raises and you have to, people say, well, you're not doing it right. You have to lift your knees up too, and you have to rotate your pelvis forward. That works the abs, and they'll use that argument. But that's, as you know, a little bit outside the resistance curve. So would you mind speaking on that?
Look, first of all, you know as well as I do, there's so much nonsense out there, and it's at least amusing, if not worse than amusing. It's at least amusing to see people. Yeah, I'll just say amusing to see people who are absolutely positively convinced that the way they're telling you to do this thing is right. And so much so, they have such an emotional investment in that message that if they were to realize, if they were to allow themselves to realize the error of their ways, they'd have a really hard time now admitting that all that time they were being so confident, they were wrong, right? So let's just say that someone were to say, well, look, when you're doing a hanging leg raise, you've got to bring your tailbone under. And I would say, okay, so what you're telling us, you may not realize you're telling us this, but what you're doing is you're saying, I realize the abdominal muscle has to shorten. And that means that the origin and the insertion of that muscle need to get closer together in order for that to shorten. Now you can do that by bringing the origin toward the insertion or the insertion toward the origin. But if you were a muscle and you were connected on two ends and you're contracting, you actually don't know which end is moving. There's no way for you, you can't see the skeleton. All you know is that you're shortening and the two ends are coming together. It could be this end is stable and you're going this way. Could be you're going this way. But at the end of the day, just like two guys doing a tug of war, doesn't matter who's winning, the tension will be evenly distributed throughout. So the next question you'd have to ask is there an advantage to having the lower portion move toward the upper portion rather than vice versa? And the answer is no, there is no advantage. And the reason for that is very simple. Number one, you can't spot reduce. So, I mean, most people, I think, know that, but you can't add ridges. You can't convert a 4-pack to a 6-pack or an 8-pack.
What if I train my lower abs really hard?
Well, that's what I'm saying is people think that the reason why they're working the lower abs is so that they will get more notches. At the end of the day, that's what they're thinking. And those notches are called tendinous intersections. They're essentially tendons. They've been there since you were born. You'll never be able to add another tendinous intersection, just like you'll never be able to add another Achilles tendon. No matter how hard you train your calves, you'll never have another Achilles tendon. No matter if you train your calves upside down, you'll never have another Achilles tendon. Doesn't matter how you train them, facing north, south, east, west. Doesn't matter. You'll never have another Achilles tendon. Same thing with the abs. You will never, ever, ever change the appearance of your abs. All you can do is make that muscle get more developed, meaning that those ridges get higher, the valleys get deeper. You strip away the fat. You see what Mother Nature gave you. Period. That's all you can do. So no one would argue with the fact that leg raises are harder than crunches. Unnecessarily. Why would you do an exercise that requires hanging with your arms, involving the hip flexors, straining the lower back because of this push-pull thing, this lumbar pulling, right? When it's just as easy to do a regular standard, either an incline crunch or a seated cable crunch or something. You don't involve the arms. You don't involve the hip flexors. You don't involve the discomfort of the lower back. You get a better result. It is just foolish to work harder with less payback.
Well, not only that, but obviously considerably easier, and they all do it anyways, using the momentum of lifting their knees wildly and swinging their legs like lunatics to get them up there. You're not really contracting your abs at that point for more than a second anyways. There's no control.
One of the biggest mistakes people make in fitness is thinking that the value of the exercise is determined either by the weight they're lifting or how much it burns or how much you're sweating. You've got to use better criteria than that. You've got to use better sense than that.
It's subjective anyways. There's some people that can't even feel their muscles in pain. So how are they going to judge that?
nor where they're feeling it.
Yeah, they're screwed.
Yeah.
But can we move on to this is a big one, and I know you just explained the incline press and why the incline press isn't good. I put that on my channel. Thank you again for doing that. And the squat, you were kind enough to explain that, but would you also just get into the deadlift too for a moment, and why that doesn't actually, it's not a hamstring exercise. It's basically loads your back, even though people don't seem to think it does.
So to be clear to the viewers, we're not talking about a Romanian deadlift. We're talking about a stiff-legged deadlift, SLDL, that is typically used for the hamstrings. And so some of you may have seen the video that I did where I responded to Mike Israetel, where he was saying that, it's absurd to think that the deadlift, the straight-legged deadlift does not work the hamstrings. So what I explained basically is that all muscles work through a simple mechanism whereby muscles cross over to the other side of a joint. And when that muscle contracts, it bends or extends that joint that's in between the origin and the insertion. So when you're talking about a bicep or a tricep, let me grab that thing. Talking about, let's say a joint that is moved by one muscle, or more specifically, one muscle tendon, right? So this is a bicep, right? This is a bicep, upper arm, lower arm, elbow, right? This is the insertion, right? So when the muscle shortens, so what I did during that demonstration is I added another hook right here, and I added another hook right there, and then I took a little rope and I clipped it onto there, and I pulled closer to the joint and farther from the joint. And what I said is the amount of leverage that a muscle has in the participation of its joint bending is determined by how close to the joint it is or how far from the joint it is. Okay, so the reason I did that is because when we're talking about hip extension, which is the primary thing that's happening during a stiff-legged deadlift, we realize that there's three muscles that are contributing to that action. So what we want to do is find out how much contribution each muscle has in that movement. So there's three muscles, the gluteus maximus, the adductors, and the hamstrings that are involved. Now, the gluteus is the biggest muscle of the entire body. So certainly it is the biggest muscle of the hip extensors. It crosses the joint by a lot. Its origin is way above the hip joint and insertion is way below the hip joint. It's got a lot of leverage in addition to being a very big, heavy muscle. Okay, the next one is the adductors. And if you look at the anatomy, you can see it's significantly smaller than the glutes. And although the insertion is low on the leg, the origin is barely even with the hip joint. It's not significantly above the hip joint, so it can't possibly have the same amount of leverage as the glutes do. And then you look at the hamstrings, and the hamstrings is the smallest of the three muscles. They weigh the least. They are the smallest by volume. The insertion is low, obviously on the other side of the knee, but the origin is literally below the knee joint. I mean, the hip joint. So what I said in that video was if you were in an engineering class and your assignment was to create a mechanism that would move that particular joint and you handed that in, the professor might even laugh at you. He'd say, well, the rule number one is it has to be on the other side of the joint. This one isn't even on the other side of the joint. It's on the same side of the joint as the insertion, right? So although it could participate to some degree when the pelvis tilts, it is the mechanism that has the least good leverage and also the smallest muscle. So if you were to say, okay, well, you've got three muscles, they're all contributing. Let's figure out the approximate percentages. The gluteus has to participate at the very least 70% of the force. It's probably much higher. It's probably 80 to 85% of the force. But just for the sake of argument, let's just say 70%. That leaves 30% to be shared by the adductors and the hamstrings. They don't evenly contribute, but even if they did, 15 for one and 15. So at the highest possible contribution, 15% is the amount of participation you'd get from the hamstring in hip extension. You're going to do an exercise for the hamstring, even though it's only participating 15%. More realistically, it's only participating 5 to 8% of the hip extension force. And if you do a seated leg curl, it's 100% participation of the hamstring. They don't even compare. It's not even close. So someone says, well, yeah, but there's an EMG analysis that shows high activation. Well, high activation does not measure growth potential, early phase loading, range of motion, any of that stuff, right? So what it's doing is it's measuring the amount of loaded stretch. Yes, you're getting a loaded stretch. And if you think that's good, if you think that's all a muscle needs for growth, then you should also be doing that for every other muscle. There isn't a single other exercise for the pecs, for the lats, for the biceps, triceps, quadriceps. There's no other exercise, no other muscle that we work only with a loaded stretch. I'm not saying stretch is bad or unnecessary. If you were to do a seated leg curl and you pull yourself forward, you get the stretch too, as well as the knee flexion, right? So there's just no way, logically speaking, that you can look at that exercise knowing the bad mechanics, hip extension mechanics of the hamstrings and think it's a good exercise. There's just no way, right? I call this intellectually lazy. You're not pulling back the curtain. The rabbit disappeared and you figured, oh, well, I guess it did. It's like, no, there are mechanical rules. There are mechanical principles. You've got to be able to say, that's impossible. Something else is going on here. It's not as it appears. Right? So it's just that's sensible.
So just real quick, just for fun, it just occurred to me when you were talking, but why don't, could you give me your opinion on the sumo deadlift versus, let's say, that the regular, like close stance deadlift? Just the actual, like, how much do you think the difference in muscle load is to the quad and hamstrings due to the angle of the actual legs? Just because I know people want to know this.
Well, look, it's hard to do it without pencil and paper, chalkboard.
Yeah, I know, not that. Just because you can estimate, you know what I mean? Just based on the fact that when you do the sumo, it's incredibly wide. You're barely moving the barbell more than about, give or take 4 inches. I mean, just what are your thoughts on this for fun?
I mean, look, there's no doubt that if you do a sumo, you're going to get more adductor work than you would on a regular squat. You're just going to do it, right? Because you're going wide. The sumo is less productive than the regular squat, and the regular squat is already not productive enough to be considered a good exercise.
Deadlift.
I'm sorry, deadlift.
Yeah, just to clarify.
Yeah, okay, so let me rephrase that. The sumo deadlift is less good than a standard Romanian deadlift, and the Romanian deadlift is already not a particularly good bodybuilding exercise.
Yeah, definitely not. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, so again, it goes back to, this idea of people not using good reasoning, logic to evaluate things, or using other things to evaluate things. They're using how much weight is being moved. They're using who recommended it. They're using, a guy who has a good particular body part. Mm-hmm. There's all these things that are not the right barometers you should be using to determine whether or not there's good mechanics, right? And that's because we live in a society that is oversimplified, right? So especially now with social media, you'll see a guy doing a heavy deadlift and his buddies will all be patting him on the back. And we think that's a good thing. Lifting heavy weights, getting accolades by your buddies, impressing observers. All right. If you think that's, if that's where your goals are, if that's all you want in life is to have people patting you on the back for reasons that are not necessarily sensible. And they don't even realize they're not sensible. And that's a pretty low bar, right? You're not really aspiring to much, right? It's much wiser to aspire to a loftier goal, something that makes more sense. Like, how do I get the most amount of muscle load with the least amount of weight so I can get the best physique I can possibly get with the least amount of wear and tear? That's like saying, how do I buy the most house for the least money?
Yeah, truly.
Right?
Yeah,
So
that's a good comparison.
but instead of bragging about, how much you squatted, which is the equivalent of bragging how much you paid for a house, we should be, the smart person would say, do you realize I got this much muscle load with only this much weight because I used this particular mechanics?
Mhm.
Wow, that's clever.
Well, not only that, but a big thing, I just speak on this personally, but I used to spend, give or take somewhere between 18 and 20 hours a week in the gym. And I don't know if you have experienced this yourself, but those 20 hours I spent in the week in the gym, etc., kind of sort of screwed up my life. I couldn't have proper functioning relationships. I was constantly stressed out. I was overtrained. I was sore. It led to a host of other complications. Nowadays, I'm in the gym, give or take 6 hours a week, I think, like that. The rest of my time is spent with building my business, with making money, with helping my clients. Just think about it, guys. Just think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, again, this goes back to the thing about logic, right? So people tend to be simplistic about what their payoff is, what their motivation is, right? Motivation usually comes from peer approval, right? That's not a good thing to use as your tool, your barometer for measuring or evaluating how well you're doing, right? But what happens is, I'm not vilifying these people, right? So it's a natural tendency everyone has, right? And that is, you go to the gym, you don't know anything, you're a beginner, you're a novice, you go to the gym, you're probably feeling physically insecure, you're either feeling overweight, you're feeling skinny, whatever. When newbies go to the gym, they always feel a little uncomfortable, right? Naturally, they're kind of a fish out of water. They're in an unfamiliar environment. They're going to see people in there that are in better shape. They're going to feel like inferior to that, right? So, God bless them for having the courage to even go there and take the first step, right? So that's a positive. The problem is, once you're in there, you're going to be exposed to a lot of different thoughts and philosophies, and you're going to be misled. Right now, if you ask most people, what is your goal? What do you actually want? Most people don't actually even know, because they don't know. Most people don't even know why they want what they want, right? At the end of the day, most of us want to look our best, and we want to feel our best. But beyond that, why do you want to look your best or feel we know why you want to feel your best, but why do you want to look your best? Because you get more validation when you look your best. You get more approval. So now it starts, the lines start to blur a little bit, because you could say, well, if I'm doing this to look my best and get approval from that, or I'm doing it to lift the most amount of weight and get approval for that, why would one be okay and not the other one be okay? I would say, well, injury risk. By the way, you can lift the most amount of weight and not look good. And you can look good and not lift the most amount of weight. And if you try to do both at the same time, both will be compromised. They actually will. So it just makes much more sense to do a muscular development approach, which is going to maximize your appearance. It's going to strengthen your muscles along the way. You shouldn't care about impressing people with how much you lift. It's irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. Nobody cares, other than people who are trying to compete with you on that one particular lift. And who cares what the outcome of that is, right? You walk down the street, I was at the grocery store the other day, and the guy who was putting my bags in the grocery said, hey, what's a good quadricep exercise? And the cashier says, can I see your abs? In other words, they're giving me approval. They're acknowledging this guy is in good shape.
Kind of rude, though. Just saying.
Well, it was funny. And then this lady over here laughed. But look, the point is, I wasn't lifting anything. Nobody cares how much I lifted.
No, they just want to know how you did it.
The only way you're going to impress anyone by being able to lift a lot of weight is when you lift a lot of weight. If you have a great physique, you impress people all day long.
Mhm.
And you do it without the injury risk.
And I mean,
So
I say it, I would say it all the time, and I'm sure you probably say it all the time too, but even if you are in the gym and you are ego lifting and you are doing all this weight to show off, the only ones who care are the other guys. The girls don't care.
Right.
No, nobody intelligent cares. Nobody cares. It's just literally the guys in your surrounding area that you probably don't even speak to outside of the gym. So why do you care?
I just saw a meme that was exactly that. It was, this is what you think, and it's a guy with these muscles, and he's dreaming that it's going to attract all these girls. And then it says, this is what's actually happening. And the same guy in the same pose, and it's got nothing but a bunch of other bodybuilders drooling. Right? That's the only one he's impressing, is the other bodybuilders. Anyway,
Yeah.
so, but what I was going to say was, so this newbie, he goes to the gym, he wants to get in better shape, ambiguously, he doesn't know what that even means. He wants to have bigger muscles, he wants to get rid of his, belly fat. Okay, that's sensible stuff. And then he meets these guys, and they're all sitting around the bench press, and they get, they invite him in, he joins in the rotation. They go, hey, we're going to be here on Wednesday, why don't you join us? Okay, great. So now he's part of this Monday, Wednesday, Friday bench press session that happens every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3:00. Now he's got something else, which is, friends, support group, fellowship. These are all things people like to be recognized, like to be part of a club. They want to be included. So now all of a sudden, his original goal of going to the gym to look better has now meshed with this powerlifting exercise that isn't going to make his pecs necessarily better, but he thinks it's all part of the same thing. I'm going to the gym, I'm working out, I'm making friends, I'm becoming more popular. All right. But these are two drastically different things. Dumbbell presses and bench presses are drastically different things in the way they're used and in what they produce. So, and then they're bombarded. Look, I actually saw an article a while back in Men's Health magazine that said, how much should a man squat?
Oh, yeah.
Now, people think that Men's Health magazine, Men's Fitness magazine, Muscle and Fitness, so these are the authority, that these things, and by the way, it's unfortunate, most people buy magazines because they want to know what to think. They want to know how to rate themselves. This is what these magazines do, is they fool you into thinking that they can tell you what's cool, what's not cool. They can tell you how to dress, how not to dress. They can tell you what you should be lifting and what you. So this magazine said, if you're an average Joe, you should be squatting your body weight. So if you're 200 pounds, you should be squatting 200 pounds. If you're average, if you're golden, you should be squatting 1.5 times your body weight. So I weigh 200 pounds, a little bit more. I should be squatting 300 pounds in order to be golden. And yet I can tell you right now, there's just no way it makes any logical sense to compress your spine with 300 pounds to get a quadricep benefit that you can get better with an exercise that doesn't even load your spine at all.
Well, not only that, but I mean, how are you squatting? I've seen how most people squat. They don't even go to parallel,
Well, wait a minute. Let's go one step farther. It says if you're an average Joe, what average Joe should be doing a 1 rep max squat?
That's a good point as well. Yes, true.
That is absolutely ridiculous. The idea that anyone should do a 1 rep max anytime, unless you're powerlifting, unless you're competing in that event, there's no sensible reason why anyone should be doing a 1 rep max anything. And yet they do it. They should do it with bench press, squat, and deadlift because it's known as the barometer, which means when someone says, how much do you bench? You have an answer. You don't want to not have an answer. Heaven forbid you not have an answer.
What do you say? Because I literally have people ask me that probably at least twice a month. What do you, I have a funny response, but what do you say? I'm curious.
I say I don't bench press. It's not an exercise that is good for my purpose.
Oh, I just say I would never do such a foolish exercise. It kind of leads to conversation, but it's, they're like, what do you mean? You don't bench press? I said, not in like 7 years, I think.
Yeah.
But I wanted to try to wrap this up. I know you have to get going. I'd like to ask you though, I didn't ask you this last time, I forgot. I think I was just so excited to have you on. I'd like to ask you this time though. What advice would you give upcoming bodybuilders? What's the one really important bit of advice you'd give, or perhaps just advice in general?
Well, look, again, my message is mostly to, I'll loosely say bodybuilders, but what I mean by bodybuilders is people that want to develop their physique.
Agreed.
Right. So you could be a bodybuilder and never have any intentions of getting on stage.
100%.
You want to make your muscles bigger. You want to improve the appearance and the function of your muscles and your body. You want to reduce your body fat, right? This is all bodybuilding. I call it physique development because it's less intimidating than bodybuilding, but either way. So you want to work all 20 of your muscles. You want to work them in isolated exercises. You want to work them twice a week, and you want to work them with a number of sets that is appropriate for you at that level. So you might start off with a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body, one set, maybe two sets, and that's it. Right. And then you can graduate if you want to a two-way split, half the body on Monday, half the body on Tuesday, skip Wednesday, half the body on Thursday, half the body on Friday, skip Saturday and Sunday. You've got your 2 times in there, and you've increased from 2 sets to 3 sets per muscle group. And then if you want to take it a little farther, you can split it into 4 sets per muscle by doing a 3-way split. Now, obviously, a lot of this depends on how you want to structure your life. If you don't want to work out 6 days a week, that's not the workout for you. If 4 days a week are better for you, or 3 days, then you're going to have to, do fewer sets, and you can do it that way. But if you want to get maximum results, you're going to have to put in 6 days a week. 3 and 3.
And then I guess the last thing, if you could, I just want you to please shamelessly self-promote all your stuff, because it's amazing. If you could just plug the hell out of it. Everyone listening, I fully support every single one of Doug's courses. And even if you're like not a personal trainer or anything else, spend the money, buy a Christmas present for yourself, whatever. It's not that expensive. And yes, it's worth it. Could you please, Doug, just promote all your good stuff you got for me real quick?
Absolutely. I'd love to. So the book I wrote is called The Physics of Resistance Exercise. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at my website, which is dougbrignoli.com. You can also go to Smart Training 365, and we have some video courses there. We have True Bodybuilding. We have the Brig 20. We have that book you saw right there in the form of a certification program. So you can actually get Biomechanics certified. I really want to, make a plea here. And that is, don't be lazy. Read. You can get so much useful information by reading. Stop watching YouTube videos. People are so lazy. They want everything in a soundbite. Read. You will have your eyes opened up in a way that you never thought possible. And you can get results you never imagined with so much less effort than you thought, if you understood how and why. You're not going to get that in a soundbite. You're just not. The book is only $70. It'll so drastically change your awareness of what's going on. I mean, look at the reviews that people are saying on Amazon. Best book I've ever seen. Wish this thing had been around 30 years ago. Changed my life. Read. Please read. Please, use your brain. God gave you a brain. Use it. Please, you'll be a better human being for it.
guys, I mean, just again, tag on to this. You have to read. I mean, not just this book, but you guys should be reading. I'm not affiliated with Blinklist, by the way, but I love Blinklist. It summarizes books. You guys should check that out. And I would also say that I know a lot of people really do trouble understanding some of these concepts, and I'm just going to promote my YouTube channel here. I mean, it's not monetized or anything, but I take all of Doug's information, all the amazing information, and I put it with animation so you can understand it really easily. And I also teach you guys how to build home gym equipment for basically no money to perform these exercises in your home for all you introverted people or people with busy lives. I just want to throw that in there. And I also have several books and a bunch of other stuff myself, but this is about Doug today. So Doug,
I do want to say on that note, what you just said is fantastic. There are some visual learners, right? Now, the combination of reading it and then seeing it with the animation you're providing is a killer combination, right? So that's a good idea to get the book. watch your videos with the animation. And then obviously a big component of this is how do I execute this? How do I do this with the equipment I have or the equipment I don't have, right? Because, you know, a lat pulls down and in. That's what it does, right? How are you going to do that with a dumbbell? You're not, right? You need to figure out how you can do that. And if you don't have a pulley machine, Castle's got some great ideas for how you can create a pulley system at home, and you can get all the benefits of a lat pull in without even having to go to the gym. So this is how you get a program together. You first learn it, you see it, and then you learn how to facilitate it and execute it.
And again, Doug, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for doing this. I think you cleared up a lot of things for a lot of people. And guys, everyone, please support Doug. It's so important. That's why I'm doing everything I can to support him as well. This information needs to be heard. So just thanks again, Doug.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Talk to you later.